Questions. This is one of the builds that many people actually been asking me. It is the full summons build for the Druid in Inferno 8. There's an updated version of this build, and I know that even if it's not the meta builds, and usually I only make the meta builds, many of you guys enjoy this build, so here it is. And before we go into it, please do me a small favor, drop that like and the subscribe button, because you'll tell me and my wife analytically that you guys are enjoying the content and you want to see more. So let's go into the new summons build for the Druid. Well, when it comes here to the skills, we are using obviously the summon the wolves, then we are using summon the oak sage, summon the grizzly bear, and then of course we are using here the rabbit smite, so we can have this 36% damage boost, which is at this stage a staple when it comes to the PvE build. Then we're gonna have here the Yawning maw, which is gonna turn your big bear into a big flaming bear. Then we're gonna have the tokens of vigilance, which is gonna put that your rabbit might is gonna empower your primary attacks with an additional damage equal to 1.9% of your maximum life. So this actually scales with the rabbit smite because it's gonna increase your life, and the higher the resistance, the more vitality you actually have on your class, the more damage you actually gonna be able to do. Then on the shoulders, we are still using the Bargasting beacon, which is gonna turn your summoned wolves into fire wolves. Then we have here the tough love. This is a new instance that we have in Inferno 8, which whenever you are gonna activate your summons oak sage, you're gonna increase the damage of your summons up to 38%, and this is actually a big boost here and a big upgrade for this build, which is actually gonna make a big difference. Then we are using here the Lunar Cradle, which your summons will now be able to weaken the nearby enemies, increasing your damage by 15%, and also with the awakened slot it's gonna increase 10% of your wolf's damage. The other main hand, it is gonna be the Staff of Droves, which your landing slide is gonna be increase the primary attack, and you can actually stack it up to 3 times, getting 40% primary attack speed increase. Then we're gonna have here the first offhand, which is gonna be the summons the grizzly, which is gonna generate primal power, but because we're not even using surging stone or any of that, it doesn't really matter. Pretty much all we want it is the increased damage of the grizzly bear by 9% and the 10% here from the awakened slot. Then last but not least, we have the Tuscard, which whenever you're gonna summon the oak sage, they actually gonna spread these smolder seeds that in together with the burning effect from your bear and your wolves, you actually gonna be able to create these explosions, and you're gonna be able to do a lot of damage. So this version is actually gonna do a lot more damage than the previous one. Then whenever it comes here to the set items, we are using the 6-piece shepherds, which the 2 pieces gonna increase the summons damage by 15%. Then you're gonna have an increase of your critical hit chance by 18%, and then whenever your summons enter in a freeze state by 12 seconds, which pretty much they're gonna have their attack speed increased by 6%, which is very strong. The other ones, it is gonna be the 2 pieces Vitus, and this pretty much standard. You can actually try to go and change around, for example 4 pieces Vitus with the 4 pieces Grace, but if you want to min-max, try to go with the 6-piece shepherds and the 2 pieces Vitus, which will work very well. Now here for the legendary gems, well, we are using the spectral glass, that whenever we're gonna hit the target, we actually gonna increase the damage that they take up to 20% and increase your critical hit chance. We are using a very powerful, summons legendary gem. It is Bottle Hope, so whenever you're gonna put your rabbit's might and you're gonna have your summons outside, you're actually not only gonna buff yourself by 13%, you're also gonna buff your summons that are around you by 13%, so which gives an increase of 26% damage, which is very good, and it's actually one of like the very few niches that the Bottle Hope it is extremely good. Then we are using here the Pain class, so whenever you're gonna have a continuous damage effect, in this case it's gonna mainly be the burn, you're gonna have the increased damage coming from it. Then we're gonna have the Blood Soak Chase for the damage increase and the movement speed, Blood Flow for the increase of your crit damage and damage. Also we're gonna have of course the Berserker Eye, which is gonna increase your critical hit chance and also your damage, and then Bloodsoaked Jade and the Mother's Lament to pretty much increase your crit. There is also an alternative of a gem that I actually don't have level up, but you can also use. It actually gonna give you a double buff because it's gonna buff up your damage plus the damage of your summons, and if you have the summons, you most likely should be using this one. I wish that I had here this one at a higher rank so I could use it, but other alternatives most likely will be also the Morn Skull. You also have here the Crimson Ability. Please do not use here the Fervent Fang because that's not gonna apply to your summons. You also have the Freedom of Devotion. You also can use, for example, the Follower's Burden. There's other alternatives that you can use, but basically, as long as it's gonna increase your damage, you're actually gonna be able to work really well with this build. Now for the Reforges, usually I use some universal Reforges, so I tend to use like these ones with the damage, loss of control, damage to demons, attack speed, beneficial effect duration, and crit hit damage. But you also can maybe, if you just like all in on your summons, you can also have the increase of your summons damage, which actually can also be very beneficial if you just like to play with the Druid and the Necromancer minions. But in general, if you're someone that like to be a bit more universal and play other builds, most likely this one will work still very well. And now talking about something very important, which is the summons damage. So if you guys gonna see here on this build, on my Shepherd's set items, I have damage increase on your summons on my necklace. I also have it on my gloves. I also have it on my rings. So all of this is actually giving me a lot of damage increase, mainly for my summons. So this is another way that you guys can also go and just boost up like the damage that you're gonna do. Together, obviously, without forgetting to still like focus on your secondary stats, so you can increase your critical hit damage with the armor penetration, or even like with the potency to extend your armful effects. Try to boost up your crits. As you guys can see here, I got 42% right now, and if I actually go and I put all my summons out, you guys are gonna be able to see that my crit will actually gonna go up to 100%. So this is together with the Mother's Lament, the Running Consequence, and the 18% that comes from the 4 pieces. So pretty much I'm gonna be able to crit all the time, so it is actually pretty good when it comes to that sense. Then we also want to have the critical hit damage, because since we actually gonna go and crit all the time, this is gonna be a very good stat. Obviously right now I'm with the 57.5% because I have the blood flow activated. Then we also have the 19.5% attack speed, cooldown reduction, which is okay. Like the mainly is going to be for your big bear that you know, sometimes is going to go into these 1 or 2 seconds of cooldown. If you can get this up to 20%, most likely you're going to have your bear all the time with you, which is pretty nice. And the movement speed, it is going to be around like 30% because of the blood flow. So now for the Paragon, what am I using? Well, we are taking the full advantage here of the Slayer. This pretty much we're gonna keep it saved, and it's actually gonna give you a lot of like attack damage. Then we're gonna have here the Dead's Release. Pretty much whenever you're gonna apply these burning effects on the target, they are gonna be able to expire and then create like these small explosions. So they come like very handy. And something that is also very important, especially if you are running with your summons, is to have the 6 pieces Vex Curse properties, which is gonna increase the attack speed also of your summons by 24%, and it's gonna be occurring every 30 seconds. Also your Vex is gonna be every 40 seconds, so you're gonna have 2 cooldowns that's gonna keep cycling with each other, which is gonna increase the attack speed of your summons all the time. And because most of your damage is gonna come from them, this actually comes very clutch. The 2 pieces, I'm using the trophy, but mainly you can use whatever you want. Another important part, it is actually gonna be to have a good familiar. So the familiar that you know, can be like the Brand Talon or something like that. And as long as you're gonna have like the Lingering Wounds, which are gonna apply armor break on the targets and increase your damage that you're gonna do and from your summons by 38%, this is gonna be a huge help to pretty much try to keep you up on the damage meters. Otherwise it can be a bit underwhelming sometimes. And then here, of course, when it comes to the room management, you want to go with the attacker room. So now you probably are curious about, you know, the damage of this build. So we're gonna go and we're gonna log out, and I'm gonna do a 1 minute you know, dummy test, and you guys are gonna see that the damage that's gonna output, it is well, it is not like that crazy bad. Like, I mean, it's still not like outperforming any of the other builds that I did until now, not the Surging Stone or the Werewolf or the Bear, but it is still definitely probably one of the most chill. And I can also explain one of the, whenever we go into the dungeons, like what is the major issue with the summons builds in this game right now and why they are actually not able to perform that well. So pretty much here, what you want to do you want to summon your summons first, and then you want to do the Rabbit Smite next. So like that, you're going to be able to use your Bottle Hope, and like that, you're going to buff yourself, and you're also going to buff every single summon that it is around. It's going to be very important to do this order. Otherwise, if you do the Rabbit Smite at first, you're just going to buff yourself and not your summon. So let's go here. We're going to do primary attack and then summons everything, and you guys are going to see the rotation is pretty much just get all the summons. Now you do the Bottle Hope, and then well, so you guys can see like we are at like around like 5 million damage, almost 6 million damage. Obviously, you know, it is not like the crazy amount of damage. I wish like we could actually go and get like around like 10 million or something like that. But it is still a single target, and I feel like, you know, from all the testing that I did, this was the one that I managed to pretty much outperform other versions of the build. So if you guys have any suggestions for the build to actually try to improve the damage, that could actually come like very clutch. But basically, you are spamming your primary attack, your landslide, and then you just let your summons do the rest. And we're here at almost like 200 million damage. I mean, like, it's not that bad. Listen, with 4 million damage, you can actually clear pretty much everything in the game. So, we're actually gonna go around, what, like, almost, okay. Oh, I mean, like, this is, you know, almost 250 million. I mean, it could be better, obviously, but it also could be worse. So definitely the summons overall, like in this game, it is something that hopefully in Inferno 9 and Inferno 10 they can actually keep improving, not only on the Druid but also like in general, like when it comes to it, the AI or the damage they are outputting is just not comparable to the one that you now can do as a player. So I feel like maybe if like 2 years ago in Diablo Immortal, the summons used to be like the MVPs and they used to output a lot of damage, now they feel like quite underwhelming because, you know, pretty much the player itself with these like empowered primary attack abilities and skills are able to just like be extremely fast, do a lot of like AoE damage, and still perform really well when it comes to your single targets. So we are now joining here one of these dungeons. So okay, I already started like badly, but as you guys can see, the damage with the Smolder seeds, I mean, I'm popping off like a 20 million damage, and as long as you're gonna be able to have like a lot of mobs, you're still gonna be able to go and spread all these you know, Smolder seeds that is gonna be responsible to pretty much explode everything. And together with the bear, you know, all these burning effects and things, you're still like gonna do, you know, 10 million damage whenever we're starting. It's very simple to play. It is, I mean, generally it's like super simple to play this build. You pretty much are just spamming your primary attack while you let your summons like they just run wild. Another important thing is like, even though like the Rabbit Smite, it feels like it is not buffing the HP of your pets, it still is going to be responsible to actually give them this total loss of control buff. So that's what you see whenever it comes to mobs. Also, there is an improvement in a change that you guys can also make. If you guys don't want to go like for the full damage build, we can also go here and remove the Lunar Cradle, which pretty much is increasing the damage that we do with the wolves, for us to put like the one that's going to give us like 60% more movement speed on this build. So this for challenge dungeons, I feel like it is still like obviously if you're starting out the game and maybe now you want to play like with a bit more defensive, and you still want to pretty much be in a safe place because you can still not dive in, or you die a lot of times like with your wolf or even with your bear. I mean, like, this is a great choice, and I understand why a lot of players, they actually go for this. You know, the same reason why they actually go for the summons build in the Necromancer. But obviously, you know, at a certain stage, once you start like scaling up your account, you already have like enough damage, and then there's gonna be the time to pretty much just start going and getting like that speed, right? You want to start to getting to a point that what is gonna matter, especially in these dungeons, is gonna be for you to just do a lot of damage while you are still like crazy fast. So we're gonna do here this boss, and the single target, it is still like pretty good. So you see here, I am still like the highest damage, and that's obviously thanks to all these explosions and the pets and all the AoE that we have, which is pretty good. There's also like some terror affixes, but they seem to actually be quite bugged out when it comes to the summons. I'm gonna show you guys the terror affixes right after these dungeons. summon. So even though like this for me it is a very slow playstyle, I still enjoy it. And most likely, imagine like if I was watching like The Sopranos with my wife like I am now, like probably I could see myself like playing something like this, or also sometimes playing with the Surging Stone. Those are like very relaxing, you know, builds to play, because you're just like gonna run, and you don't have to be controlling like your werewolf, you don't have to be controlling your bear, you don't have to be doing nothing like that. You're literally just gonna go, you're gonna summon all of your things, you're gonna buff them up with a Bottle Hope, and now you're just gonna be able to do a lot of damage. So hopefully, please do enough damage. Oh man, we are already at the 1.1 billion damage with the summons build. So obviously this is a build that, you know, whenever there are a lot of mobs, you can actually have so much more damage than you could do if you were just like running on the dummy. So we're gonna do this. Yeah, please can you break that? All right, good. Unfortunately, like whenever we don't do or your party doesn't do like enough damage, you have to go through this phase, which is like always like a pain in the ass, right? But you know, it is what it is. Now we're gonna kill the boss, and that was pretty much it. So we actually got around like almost 1.2 billion damage on these, which is like really good, and quite impressive. I think like honestly it did better than I actually thought. Obviously it is a bit slower, but you know, that's how it is. So let's go here into the final thing, which is we have some summons affixes that you probably can use, and especially for example here for the Grizzly Bear. If you're not gonna have this Grizzly Bear at 100% uptime, there is a terror affixes that you can actually use if you're lucky to get it, that you can actually increase the duration of your Grizzly Bear. So if you go here into the crafting, you guys are going to be able to see that the summoned Grizzly gonna increase the duration up to 15%, and usually just by having 1 or 2 out of 4, it is more than enough to have the Grizzly 100% uptime, as long as you have some really nice cooldown reduction. And the other thing that people said that this one, it is most likely bugged, it is that your primary attacks will also have 50% chance of increasing the attack speeds of your wolves. So I also have this, I tested it out. It was not like very obvious like if it was working or not, but well, these are the things. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun making this build, and also had a lot of fun to actually go and play with the summons. I understand why you guys like the summons, and I also understand why, you know, people like to play with the bear or the wolf or even the Surging Stone. It is very versatile like Druid. It is one of the classes that, I mean, I have a lot of fun every time I come, and I'm glad to see him coming back to the meta. So with these guys, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and type cheese in the comments, and go watch the next video because it's gonna be a banger. Peace!